Hello, everyone. It's Dr. Manjiri Nadkarni back today for day 89 of Kapha Dosha Balancing Diet. So, we have spoken a little bit last week about the same topic, and we were interrupted a little bit with my fur baby who was in some kind of a crisis. And yeah, so I had to kind of just leave this midway. Today, I'm back so we can talk a little bit more, or we can discuss in details about kapha balancing diet and what exactly this kapha dosh is. Hello, Tamji. Thank you for showing up live. So I apologize for the interruption the last time. My fur baby was in a big distress, and I just wanted to make sure I'm here and I can kind of talk without interruption. So he's outside today. So some signs that you are having excess of this kapha dosh is it is one of the bioenergies in your body that is made up of a combination of earth and water, right? So when this earth and water can increase beyond limits or it can get aggravated, that's when you start feeling lethargic. You start feeling sluggish all the time. You could battle with excess weight, right? You cannot lose a single pound easily, though you're trying. So that can also be because of kapha issues. Even conditions like thyroid or certain conditions, certain types of diabetes, could be, or any kind of excess weight gain, or even skin conditions could be a result of excess kapha, right? And a lot of congestions, whether it's chest congestion or your sinus congestion, could also be a result of this out of balance kapha dosh, right? So that is why we need to balance it. And kapha imbalance could also result in certain symptoms like you don't have any motivation, you are sluggish, you are lethargic, you just don't want to get out of bed, you just want to be inert and not move. Your body feels really heavy. That could be another sign. There could be depression as well. There could be low energy, persistent fatigue, excess weight gain, inability to lose weight, as we mentioned before. Certain skin conditions, especially if you have conditions like yeast buildup in the body. So any excess yeast buildup, a lot of yeast conditions like Candida require an excess sugar in the body, or sugary environment, what we call. So people who have lots of high sugar diet can also have yeast, and that environment also is usually a result of excess kapha aggravation. Hi Darshana, nice to see you. Hi Tony, nice to see you. It's been a long time. Nice to see you. So these are a few things that are a result of kapha aggravation. You could, as I mentioned, fungal infections, skin infections are also very common. You have a really weak, sluggish digestion, right? As your digestion weakens, you can also be prone to what we call ama, right, which is the digestive toxin. So because of this weak digestive fire, your food doesn't break down, and it creates a toxin that keeps circulating in your body, doesn't get digested, doesn't get excreted. That's known as ama. So that's when you also start feeling a lot heavier, right? Excess sleep. So if you're sleeping a lot, right, and you just want to sleep and you just don't want to do anything, that's also a sign. Even another sign is if you're drooling, right? So drooling is also a sign that you have excess buildup of kapha in the body, right? So these are a few signs. Any kind of stiffness could also be because of kapha, ear infections. So these are all a few symptoms of having kapha imbalance. Hello Ushaji, nice to see you. So this kapha imbalance is very common during the springtime, right? So over the period of winter, because of our heavier diets, because we indulge in a lot of ice creams and dairy products, like creme brulees, around the holiday season, and this excess sweet diet can create a lot of kapha accumulation in the body. And as the sun starts, shining in the springtime, this kapha can start melting, and that's why you can see a lot of runny nose, different congestions, or different allergies are also common with this kapha, right? Kapha excess. So that's when you start seeing signs of these allergies in the springtime. So spring is very common for this kapha imbalance. Kapha imbalance is also seen in people who eat lots of dairy, right? So if you have a child that's drinking milk all the time, or is really congested, has tubes put in the ears, or is always coughing, is always cold, the cough is productive, or they have skin conditions. It could also be eczema or any other skin conditions. That could also be a sign of kapha imbalance, right? Or kapha excess. So foods like dairy or yogurt, right? Yogurt is sour tasting. It's also very cooling to the body. And it can actually aggravate this kapha, and it can also create ama because it doesn't get digested as easily. So while the health food industry is pushing a lot of yogurts, for your probiotic content, the better way is buttermilk. If you make buttermilk at home, you could take yogurt. If you make your own yogurt from a yogurt starter, that's even better. If you want to be healthy, ideally make your own yogurt, right? And you can buy, not buy, you can use the previous yogurt. So if you get a yogurt starter, we have some at Blue Water Nutrition as well. You can start the yogurt. You can take a spoon of the yogurt starter and boil some milk, let it warm, and you can add that warm milk, to this yogurt starter and set another. So with one starter, you can keep, creating more and more yogurt or making more and more yogurt. So that's also another possibility. And in that yogurt, what you can do is you can add some water. You can add certain spices like ginger, which also cut kapha, right? So ginger or a little bit of black pepper, or you can also add some cumin powder, coriander powder, and blend it and then drink it. So that's going to help with the probiotics, but it's not going to create this kapha excess or, you know, um, uh, kapha aggravations. Now, when I talk about dairy, no talk of dairy is complete without discussing the milk proteins, right? So what I have found is in Canada, a lot of people react to the milk proteins. So most people, the moment they start having issues, they think they're lactose intolerant. That is not true for each and every person. So you could be lactose intolerant, but you could be totally fine with lactose, and you could also react to whey or casein, which are two of the main milk proteins. So you have to be a little bit careful about those. And dairy is one of the most common causes. Even like cheeses or soft cheeses can create an increase in kapha. Paneer can create an increase in kapha. Sweet foods, like rasmalais and shrikhans and all those, can create an excess in kapha. So anything that's sweet, sour, or salty, right, can create kapha increase, because these are the three qualities that can aggravate kapha, and sweet is the most potent one, right? So you have to be a little bit careful about that and avoid. Even excess of fat, right? If you are having, so people who have a kapha dominant nature do not require as much fatty foods as somebody else. So a person who has a vata dosh dominant type, right, or a lot of, or when they're aging, they will require a lot more fat in the diet, right? So as we age, because the body starts, like the turnover, or I don't want to use the word decay, I'm trying to find the word, but you start getting dehydrated, you start being vata dominant in nature. So at that time you need a lot more fat in your diet. But generally, if you have a kapha body type, you do not require a lot of fat in your diet, and you do not require a lot of sweet foods in your diet. So excess of sugary foods, jaggery, organic cane syrup, cane sugar, agave, so whatever names you give to fructose, or any even fruit sugars can cause this kapha increase in the body, right? So those are to be avoided. One of the best tastes for any kind of kapha aggravation is bitter, right? So bitter is at the exact opposite spectrum of sweet. So bitter is a cleansing taste, and it can also help balance your blood sugar. So bitter melons are, one easy way. For people that have skin conditions, one of my favorite is neem, right? So neem is a really nice potent herb that is antifungal, antiparasitic, antibacterial, and it's also a bitter herb. And that can also help with skin condition and balance your kapha as well. It's not as warming, it's slightly cooling to the body. So neem is a really good herb to have if you have kapha excess. Ginger, turmeric, most pungent spices help with kapha balancing, right? So whether you talk about cinnamon, it helps with kapha balancing. Honey is the sweetener of choice when we talk about kaphas, right? So honey is astringent in taste, it's also sweet, but it's also warming to the body. So if you have excess kapha congestion, one of my favorite recipes for coughs is, mixing a quarter teaspoon of turmeric with a pinch of cinnamon with some raw unpasteurized honey or manuka honey, and you can have this 3 to 4 times a day, and that is really going to balance your excess kapha. If you're congested or if you have long productive coughs, it's always going to help with that. So that also can help balance. But if you start incorporating more spices, most spices help balance kapha, right? Most spices are going to ignite your digestive fire. Most spices are going to be warming, with the exception of coriander seeds, and they will also help balance this, excess of kapha dosh, and they will help you cut through that lethargy or that sluggishness that you feel. Now, for people who absolutely do not want to get rid of milk, you want to drink milk, you're getting congested. And I was having this conversation with one of my clients today. We were discussing, so she stopped dairy for a week and her allergies just got better, right? So we were just talking that, why do people still eat the things that make them feel sick? And we didn't really have an answer to that. And she mentioned that she had shared with her sister that, okay, you have so much congestion and sinus issues. Why don't you just stop drinking milk? And her sister was like, no, I'm not gonna, right? So one suggestion I gave was, add some cardamom. Make sure you boil the milk. Make sure you warm it. You can add cardamom, which is like the green pods of cardamom, or you can also add some turmeric haldi in the milk, and that will cut the phlegminess or the kapha increasing effect of milk, right? That's how you can balance this. Ideally, anytime you have excess sugary foods, if you have a little bit of bitter foods on the side, right? So it could be bitter greens, it could be dandelion greens, it could be kale, it could be any kind of bitter greens as well. So you're also balancing that. And this is something I talk about when I talk about meats. In Ayurveda, we don't just talk about sweet taste as in terms of sugar, but we also talk about sweet taste as in foods that have a dominant of earth and water in them, which is also a lot of meats, most grains, right? Beans are more astringent, but a lot of grains are sweet tasting. Rice is sweet tasting. A lot of meats are sweet, in their composition. So if you're having excess of rice or if you're having excess of meats, one of the fantastic ways to balance it is including something that's bitter tasting in your diet, right? So that's really going to help balance, and that's the whole point. We don't want to give up our diets and lifestyles, which I understand, but you have to make sure you're balancing. Now, for someone who has a lot of kapha in the body, they do not require huge portions of meat, or they also do not require huge portions of fruits or carbs. You have to control your carbs and also control excess protein or excess fat. So the best things for you are going to be fiber rich foods, right? And leafy greens are one of the best foods you can have. Ideally, have them cooked, ideally, add some spices, and they will work extremely well for you because you're also going to get this fiber, which is going to prevent any constipation for you. And because they are also low on the calories, you're not going to gain excess weight. That is very common with people having kapha dominant natures, right? You have to also make sure you're drinking warm water, right? So one thing never to do is go for cold smoothies or go for cold water. So do not add any ice to your water. Do not have any cold smoothies, right? So this is something you have to make sure that you're avoiding. I'm getting a little bit of cough. It's really cold outside and I had to walk my dog and I was running a bit. So that's why I'm getting like a little bit irritation in my throat. Yeah, it's suddenly like extremely cold outside today. So these are a few things. So always drink hot water. Hot water is one of the best things to detoxify. right? When you drink hot water, it slightly increases your body temperature. It opens up all your sweat glands as well. That's why even drinking water, some people start sweating easily, right? And skin is one of your most largest organs that also excretes a lot of toxins. So drinking hot water is going to help you detoxify. If you are a kapha type, adding hot water to your daily regimen is extremely important. Never drink cold or ice cold water. As a kapha dominant person, or for people having kapha dominant issues, one important thing to also include is sharp spices, right? And sharp is a quality that kind of cuts through. So when you think about a knife that's kind of sharp and that can cut through anything, right? So there are certain spices like cloves. If you kind of eat a lot of cloves, they're going to be sharp, right? In addition to pungency. So chili peppers are also going to be sharp. Black pepper is also going to be sharp. Cinnamon has a bit of sharpness. So the sharp quality can actually cut through excess of phlegm, right? And a lot of pungent foods are, have this sharp characteristic. So adding, certain pungent spices and adding foods that have this sharp quality can help balance kapha, because it's going to kind of cut through that excess kapha, right? And decongest you as well. Externally, you can also apply eucalyptus oil. When we talk about body therapies for kapha, right, for weight loss, instead of doing a lot of oil massages, we talk about dry powders and rubbing your body with dry powders. In Ayurveda, we talk about this as udvartan, right? So udvartan is where you're taking a dry powder and rubbing. You could use tiny amounts of oil if you can't really directly use the powder. But even in the Indian culture, the idea of uptan kind of came from udvartan, where you're taking dry powders and you're rubbing. One of the best things, that works to scrape fat, which is also a common sign of excess kapha, is triphala. So triphala, or triphala as the Indian pronunciation is a combination of three berries. It is also a super food because it has tons of antioxidants. It's a combination of three berries. And if you drink this, you can have it as a powder, you can have it as a capsule. But if you have it with hot water, it can help with weight loss. It can also help detoxify your body, especially your bowels, right? So if you're constipated, or if you have lots of excess, fat, and this can help cut through things, right? So triphala is a really good combination for, if you have constipation or like a sluggish bowel, that's really good. If you take the same triphala with honey, or if you even take it in the morning time, it also works as rasayana, right? So these are a few tips that you can try. As I mentioned, neem is another fantastic herb for anything that's fungal. And if you have a lot of chest congestion, one of the simple herbs is holy basil, which is again my favorite herb. So holy basil can help balance vata and kapha, and making a tea out of it, or even chewing on some leaves could be a simple and nice remedy, right? So this is kind of what I wanted to talk about the kapha balancing diet. One thing kapha people should do is, they are people who have lots of nourishment in the body. So these are people who have tons of, stored resources, and these are actually people who can fast, right? So for a kapha dominant nature, if you have like a body, if you have sturdy bone structure, broader bones, if you're stocky in your build and you have tons of stored nutrition, you can probably fast in an easier way without getting any hunger pangs, or without losing excess weight, or without getting tired. So kapha people thrive on minimal food. If you eat too much food as a kapha person, you will start feeling sluggish. And this is something I've noticed with myself. So the max I can do is 3 meals a day. I cannot do a diet where I'm eating every 2 hours or every 3 hours. I just, like, my body just gives up, right? So what you can do is, intermittent fasting would be a simple, easy idea, right? Or make sure you don't snack between meals, and even don't overeat, right? And do not eat a lot of heavier foods. One diet to not follow for a kapha person is the keto diet, right? So even keto or excess of meats when it comes to paleo diet, keto because you are having a high fat diet, but as a kapha person, you already have good amounts of fat in your body, right? And eventually, it's going to create issues with your body, right? So right now, everybody's like really looking at keto in terms of weight loss, but in the long term, it's going to take its toll on your health because you do not have a faster metabolism as a kapha. So you're not going to, do well on that specific diet. Paleo foods, because having high amounts of, proteins or meats are again not going to be very much digestible for a kapha person. So an example would be, having ground meats and having like white meat is a better option. Having fish is a better option, or even going vegetarian, vegan, or a plant-based diet is one of the best options for a kapha type, right? So if you have these kapha tendencies, if you have excess kapha accumulation or any symptoms of kapha imbalance, an idea would be to get your protein through beans and lentils rather than go for heavier meats. You could easily have maybe some almond milk because it doesn't really have a lot of nutrients and it's not going to produce excess mucus. Then cow milk, small amounts. You can also try goat's milk if you want, but make sure you're adding spices. So spices are going to be your friends. They will help with digestion, they will help with metabolism as well, and they will also keep you warm, which is something that's required for a kapha person. Now, if you have a kapha dominant nature, you cannot escape exercising, right? And I put a post today that, I exercise in the morning before my brain figure out what I'm doing, which is really true. That's why I work out either at 6 in the morning or 6:30, because then I'm done for the day. And by moving my body first thing in the morning, my body actually feels really good. The circulation is there, you're getting a burst of endorphins. So for kapha people, these are people who struggle with weight. They struggle with weight all their lives. If you are someone who's never lost weight or who's always crying about your weight problems, you have a kapha dominant nature, and we're talking about all the time. If you have a round face like me, you probably have kapha dominant nature, right? So for kapha people, the story is you have to exercise. There is absolutely no alternative to this. And you are someone, because you have a lot of reserves in your body, you can also go for high intensity training. So you actually have to exercise in a way that you're using up your resources, and you're doing some vigorous exercise because your you need to increase that metabolism. Every time you exercise, you're also generating heat, right? You're increasing the circulation. So these are all requirements for a kapha dominant nature, right? So make sure you follow some of the tips that I've talked about for kapha balancing. Make sure you're not eating too much. Make sure at least half your plate is full of green leafy vegetables and low calorie vegetables, or high fiber vegetables. So high fiber or low calorie vegetables would be everything that's not starchy. So not really pumpkins or uh, sweet potatoes or winter squashes, but anything else like zucchini, any leafy green would be really good, right? um, Okra is totally fine. Radishes. So different radishes could actually work really well because of the pungency, right? So that's something you can definitely include your diet. But as a kapha, half your plate should ideally be vegetables, and the meat portion should be just 1/4 of your plate. And even 1/4, like try eat less meat than that. Do not have heavier cuts of meat every day. So the more plant-based you go, the better it's going to work for you as a kapha dominant person, or if you have a kapha related condition, right? And eating less generally, so never overeat. That's another rule for kapha, is do not overeat. And always have some warm water or even warm teas with your milk. That's also going to aid digestion. One of my favorite recipes is a ginger pickle that I tell people to make, that helps with digestive enzymes. It also helps cut through kapha. So you can take a palm-sized piece of ginger, you can peel it and grate it. You can take half a teaspoon of Himalayan pink salt. You can take juice of half a lime, green lime. You can take lemon if you want a little bit more warming. And you can take 1 tablespoon of raw unpasteurized honey. If you want to spice it up, you can also add maybe a quarter spoon of cayenne pepper or any like chili peppers, or something that can give you that spice boost, or even cinnamon, right? If you like cinnamon, if you like the taste of cinnamon, you're most welcome to add the cinnamon. um, or you can add even chili pepper, that's going to help. And mix this entire decoction, and you can take one before you eat, right? So 1 teaspoon before you eat, and that's going to help ignite your digestive fire. You're going to digest food well, and adding this cinnamon is going to work really well, or even cayenne pepper, or even black pepper for that matter. No, so that's going to increase the kapha balancing effect, right? And you will start feeling a lot warm. Now remember that ginger itself is pungent, so if you have excess pitta as well, right? Or if you have any kind of ulcers, do not put more pungent stuff in it, right? So that's something to understand. So any questions that you have, you're most welcome to put it in the comment section. This week, last week has been a little bit crazy busy, but I would love for you to join me tomorrow. Tomorrow, I'm going to interview Vaidya Gauri Junnarkar at 11 o'clock in the morning. We are going to talk about food combining the Ayurvedic way. So in Ayurveda, we do not mix certain foods. We'll never have fruit with dairy, so or any other foods. An example is, mango lassi is not really Ayurvedic, and we do not eat any fish and milk. So there are certain combinations we absolutely avoid. And to be able to understand why, we avoid certain combinations or what is to be avoided, you can join me tomorrow at 11 o'clock in the morning, um, on my Facebook page and my Facebook group, or even on YouTube. And it will be live streamed. If you have any questions, you can always ask the questions about food combining, and hopefully we'll make it extremely simple for you. So Vaidya Gauri is also a dietitian. She's based in Dallas, Texas, and she's also a dietitian, and she's just written her second book. So she'll be talking a lot more about the book as well tomorrow. So that's pretty exciting. I'm hopefully going to sit down and write my own book. So for next week, I'll probably be doing 2 lives. I'm going to do a live on Tuesday. I'm going to do a live on Wednesday. And another one Wednesday evening. Probably I'll plan for 3 lives. One thing I'm going to talk about is migraines, right? And the other thing I would love to talk about is skin conditions and certain foods or food combinations to avoid, or understanding skin conditions in terms of Ayurveda, right? So I'm just going to give you a general idea, because I can't go into the details of each and every skin condition like psoriasis or eczema. But I can definitely share general tips, which we talk about for making sure, your skin stays really good and healthy, right? So we will talk about that on Tuesday. And I will also be doing a video on migraines, right? It's because that's one of the most requested ones. So what are some triggers that could cause migraines? What's the Ayurvedic perspective on migraines? So that those are a few things I'll be talking about. And on Wednesday afternoon, I'll also be live on the Blue Water Nutrition page, where we're talking about children's health for this week. I have to look up the topic again, but it's going to be pretty interesting, I'm sure. So thank you for watching. If you have any specific topics that you want me to talk about, I'm keeping a list of topics that I'll be talking about. We are on day 89 of our 100 days of Ayurveda. We still have 11 more sessions to do, right? So if you have any topics, you can always let me know, and I'll be more than happy to talk about those topics. And I will be back here on Tuesday. Thank you so much for listening, and have a fantastic night. Thank you, Uttamji. Thank you, Ushaji. The Facebook user, I can't really see your name, but thank you, Darshana. I can see you. If you have logged on from Facebook, I can't see your name, just because StreamYard doesn't allow me to from the application. So thank you for watching live and thank you for all your support. Have a fantastic night. I will see you tomorrow at 11 for food combining the Ayurvedic